rolling.
Also rolling.
Blast off.
Got my wild cherry Diet Pepsi. Got my
Ew.
blackjack gum.
Ew.
Pump up the volume.
I know.
Some cigarettes and it's
Double
dark.
ew.
We're wearing sunglasses.
Yeah.
I forget the
Eat
line.
your cereal with a fork. Wear your sunglasses. What is it? Wear your sunglasses inside. Eat your cereal with a fork. And something else. Yep.
I gotta rewatch
Not ew to
that
the
movie.
movie, but ew to those things.
Yeah. I
By the
don't
way.
like blackjack gum, and wild cherry Diet Pepsi isn't even a thing, or it wasn't then, which I think is why it was cool. But
Cherry anything is just gross, but except for cherry pie.
oh, cherry pie is delightful. But how dare you besmirch cherry Coke? Oh my God.
I besmirch away.
I smirch.
I smirch.
J'accuse.
J'accuse.
Je smirch.
Somewhere in the middle of Arizona, you painted a desert and called it my
Welcome to Spoiler Peace Theater, the podcast that doesn't give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Evan Crean. I am co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s movie guide to better living.
My name is Megan Kearns. I'm a contributor to Edge Media Network, and I too am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association.
My name is Dave Riedel. I write about movies for some places. I'm a member of BAFTA, and my pronouns are he, him.
Oh,
FY
thanks, Dave.
FYI.
My pronouns are she, her.
And mine are he, him. So thank you for reminding us.
Yeah, you are. I don't know how that fits in with the whole, but because, we always say, you're like, I'm with Bafka, and say, yeah, you are. Okay, I'm shut up.
Those are all things that we do.
Yeah.
But what if it's somebody's first time listening? So I think the explanation is
Oh, yeah. Okay.
okay.
Then
Because you never
yeah.
know.
If it's your first time listening,
It's
we
true.
usually do that, but I made it awkward. So,
And if it's your first time listening, welcome.
yeah.
Yes, welcome.
And
Join
And
us.
if it's your
Yeah.
300th time, welcome.
If it's your 47th time, you can fuck right off. But everybody else,
Leave it to Dave alienating the populace.
Yep.
just the one group, just the 47 timers. That's it.
Yep. That should narrow the field, I guess. If you're keeping track of how many episodes you've listened to the show, I mean, kudos for that.
That would be amazing if someone was like, I've listened to these 47. You suck. You're an asshole, Dave. I'm never listening. Oh, my God. Okay.
That was the last straw. All right. So
I've had it.
we're obviously here to talk about some movies. Before we talk about the movies this week, we just wanted to give a quick plug to this week's Patreon segment, our exclusive audio that we do. We talked about the 2009 film Jennifer's Body and had quite a good time discussing it.
Woo! We sure did.
A
Yeah, we
hoot,
did.
sort of.
So
I like the word
definitely
hoot.
consider
Me
joining our
too.
Patreon. So definitely consider joining our Patreon. You get access to exclusive audio like this week's conversation on Jennifer's Body. And then also, before we jump into the movies this week, we just wanted to give a shout out to our friends over at Hey Adora podcast.
Hey,
One of the things-
Adora.
Hey, Adora.
Hey Adora. One of the co-hosts, my friend Meph, had some very kind things to say about us on Twitter today. So we just wanted to say, hey, Adora.
But you gotta say it in like the sexy catcher way. But anyway.
I know, the sultry way. Yeah,
Yes.
we want to say, hey, Adora. But yes, you should definitely check out the Hey Adora podcast if you are a fan of She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, which is a great animated show.
You should
And
be a
they
fan
have-
of that. Exactly.
Yes, you should be. It's a great show, and it's a great podcast about She-Ra, and they go
Mhm.
deep. They're a great podcast, so definitely check them out. They're at Hey Adora Cast on Twitter.
And thank you so much for the kind words. That was such a nice surprise. It was so lovely.
Yes. Oh, and they're also at heyadora.gay. So definitely do that.
That's even better.
That's the best
Yes.
web address I've ever heard.
Yes.
Like I'm mad that I don't have that.
Spoilerpiece.gay. I don't know. We'll see. We
Maybe.
can
Yes. Someone buy, like, no, not listeners buy it. One of us buy it.
One of us buy it immediately.
So, on this week's show, we are going to be talking about 3 films. We're going to be talking about The Forever Purge, which is the latest in the Purge franchise. We are going to be talking about The Tomorrow War, which is a sci-fi movie with Chris Pratt. It's over on Amazon Prime. And we're going to be talking about Black Widow, the much anticipated Marvel movie about, you guessed it, Black Widow.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Some of us are very anticipated.
Yes. Definitely looking forward to talking about that. But first, The Forever Purge, which Megan and Dave, you have seen. Tell me all about this latest Purge installment.
Megan.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I thought you were going to take it, Dave. So the Forever Purge is, yes, it's the most recent. It's the 5th Purge. It's also the final Purge in the series.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah. It is. That is according to James DeMonaco, who is the series creator. He also directed the first 3, and he wrote every single one of the 5 films. And he said that this was going to be the end of the franchise. And so he wrote this. It is directed by Everardo Gout. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, and the film stars Ana de la Reguera, Tenoch Huerta, and Josh Lucas. And very much like the Purge franchise itself, which explores classism and racism, this is looking at racism and xenophobia specifically against Mexican immigrants. And the film opens with our leads, Adela and Juan, who are fleeing Mexico. They're going under a tunnel to cross the border. And then it forwards 10 months later, and Juan works on a ranch, and the ranch is Josh Lucas, who plays Dylan. That's his family ranch. His father, his sister work on the ranch along with him, and his pregnant wife is there. And Adela works in a meatpacking plant. And it's a day before the Purge, and then the Purge happens. They go on lockdown separately. The rich family is on their compound, locked down, and then Adela and Juan are locked down at a shelter with other Mexican immigrants, kind of banding together with like food and beds and things that such. And then it's the next day and everybody's like, yay, the Purge is over. Woohoo. Except it's not.
Yeah.
The Forever Purge is happening because racists, and yes, it is, it's white supremacist racists, want to purge all of the people of color and quote foreigners from the land, even though we are all foreigners except for indigenous people.
Which is a big point in the movie.
That is a big point, exactly. And they want to purge and disinfect, quote unquote, their words, the land. And so Juan and Adela must team up with Dylan's family. And Dylan is a racist. He doesn't want his future kid speaking Spanish. And Juan is convinced he doesn't like him because he's Mexican. And they have a conversation about it. And he's like, I don't hate Mexicans. He's like, I don't think white people are superior, but I just think everybody should stick with their own. And I'm like, okay, that's still racist. But yeah, so the two...
it's a different kind of racism, but it is racism.
Maybe better, probably not, but still different. Yeah. So they all band together along with one of the other ranch hands, who is Juan's friend, and they have to make their way not only through El Paso, Texas, Los Feliz, Texas, where they live, but they have to make their way to El Paso, and then they're trying to make it across the border because Canada and Mexico have opened their borders for 6 hours, so they're trying to make a beeline to get to the border, and that's it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So basically imagine if January 6th was nationwide.
Oh God.
That's the Forever Purge. Basically.
That is a great encapsulation. Good job.
Thank
Kudos
you.
To you.
Yeah, maybe I should have just taken it from the top. I don't know, but
I was too verbose, and I'm usually very pithy in my summaries. But you just cut to the core.
Yeah, but I think that I think that my take is a little too simplistic, but it sort of works.
It works.
But I think that you fill in a lot of good information, especially the idea that these fucking white asshole pieces of shit let's just call them what they are.
Agreed.
Are just like, we're taking the land back, and there's these Native Americans who are like, fuck you.
Yeah, they're like, we've been fighting this fight for 500 years when they're helping them out, and Dylan is like, but this isn't your fight, and
he's like, yeah, it is our fight though.
Yeah, and I have to say, I was really glad to see. I mean, this is going to sound weird. I'm really glad to see an exploration of racism, but I'm also really glad to see that Indigenous people were incorporated into that, because I feel like a lot of times media does not feature Indigenous characters or Indigenous narratives. So I thought it was great that was included. Yeah.
And these movies typically center around urban settings too. It's just like they have not given opportunity for Indigenous characters to pop up. Not that Indigenous people don't live in cities, but like they're not. What I'm trying to say is that there weren't as many opportunities for that to be there.
Are you saying that they don't take place like on tribal lands?
Yeah. So I'm glad to hear that that's part of the story. And I mean, I think these movies, I've seen them sporadically throughout the franchise. They're usually pretty good in terms of offering a horror experience, like a tense thriller horror experience, but also some pretty scathing social commentary. And it sounds like this one is ratcheting up, especially to Dave's point. About January 6th.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree with that, because not only is it a commentary on racism and white supremacy and xenophobia, there is also a very scathing commentary running throughout about guns and our societal obsession with guns. There is even a part of the score. One of the compositions is patriotic music, I believe the national anthem, set to the sound of guns going off. And a Nazi in the film actually says he's listing off the various guns just based on gunshots without even seeing them. And he's like, that's music to my ears. And then you hear it. And it's a really kind of fascinating score, and really kind of chilling, because it really does play into how obsessed we are with violence and guns and in media, and for some people in real life, which is horrifying.
Yeah, and this is one of those movies is like, I think the Purge series on the whole is like a lot better than it sort of deserves to be, because it's making a bunch of like what should be really obvious points about classism and racism and white supremacy. But at the same time, it's like, this shit goes over like so many people's heads, mostly on purpose. Why not just hit everybody over the head with this shit? So, the fact that you've got a guy with a swastika tattooed under his eyeball talking about, the music to his ears, he's like, that's an AR-15. And he's just listing. And I just remember hearing that when we were in the screening and just being like, oh, this fucking guy. God, this is everyone's nightmare, but this is my nightmare, because I am super anti-gun.
But imagine being next to him or across from him, as Adela is a Latino woman, and her boss, who is a black man.
Oh, sure.
Horrible.
You know what's kind of amazing about that whole thing, though, is he's so insane. And it's clearly written, and the part is written, that part of the screenplay is written, and the actor, whoever he is, plays it like, this person is insane. This is not just an ideology. This is insanity. And it's like, it's almost like the guy doesn't even fucking recognize there's a Mexican woman sitting across from him and a black man sitting to his right, although that does come up. But it's more for him. It seemed like it's more about, to borrow another Purge movie's title, the anarchy of it, just the fucking burn the system down kind of attitude that some of the characters,
but not in the good way.
Right.
Not in the way that the, oppressed are going to burn the city down.
Right.
Yeah. But but there's a lot of that. I mean, there's on the Purge day, or night rather, the 12 hours, Adela comes out of the kind of shelter or bunker that they're in and goes above ground and sees a convoy, and over the loudspeakers, they're talking about how, kind of sharing their ideology about how they're going to, cleanse the land. And it's just so gross.
Yeah.
But I think this film, kind of talking more specifically about this film, and I loved the first Purge. I think the first Purge is fantastic. I loved it. I loved the actors in it. I loved the way it was filmed. I thought it was really tense and had really great social commentary, as they all do, as you said, Evan. And this one, I found it tense. I really cared what was going to happen to the characters. Like, I felt very invested. And I really liked this. I think there are some ridiculously unnecessary jump scares that are just there for no reason.
Yeah, that was actually really kind of pissed me off.
Yeah, there's multiple jump scares, and I like a good jump scare, like a good one. These are not good. These are just ridiculous. And this is not really a horror film, which is fine. It's kind of horror a little bit, but much more it's dystopian action thriller.
Right.
But this was really great. And I have to say, I love that the kind of lead action hero is a 44-year-old Mexican woman. Yes, please. Thank you.
Well,
Love it.
smart. Ana de la Reguera, I'm sorry for getting that wrong. She's great. Everything you see her in, she's so good.
I love her. She's always great.
And the man who plays her husband, who I have seen before, Tenoch Huerta.
Mm-hmm. He's great too.
He's great. I mean, the two leads, they could not have picked two better leads, I don't think. When I saw Josh Lucas's name in the credits, I was like, oh no. Now, he doesn't rise, or should I say descend to the level of Ray Winstone for me. But Josh Lucas is one of those actors who, even when he's playing a nice guy, I just kind of want to punch him in the face. And it's because
smarmy.
he's just that like kind of weird drawl that he has where everything just seems to be dripping in malevolence. It's just...
Oh, I kind of like the drawl, but...
it just really is, But
did he bug you here? Because
here's the thing.
Because I was prepared to hate him in this, and I kind of didn't.
Yeah, and not, it's one of those things. It's like, he's a better performer than I always give him credit for. And every time I watch him, I'm like, I expected to come in here hating you, and I don't like you, but I don't hate you. And in this one, I almost liked him. Like,
yeah, me too.
Not because he's like, his racist asshole whatever is redeemed, which maybe it is. That's kind of ambiguous, but that he likes those two Mexicans basically at the end of the movie. He might
not like all the Mexicans, but he likes those two.
He likes those two. Which
is I don't want to give any racist credit, but it's at least a step in the right direction.
Yeah, but it's kind of like they're two of the good ones. It's like weird. So anyway, that was probably the one kind of misstep for the film that bothered me slightly. Is I was like, we're really going to redeem? But okay. But at the same time, he's really good in the part. He
is really good.
And it's just like, this is what I say when I said it earlier, that the Purge series is sort of better than it should be. It's just like, you have these good actors in these. In this movie, you've got exceptional actors. Like Will Patton. Now granted, he'll do just about anything, but he's always good. He's
so good. I just have to say, my favorite thing I've ever seen him in is Blood on Her Name, which is so good and such an underrated film. But anyway, yes, he is always great.
And TT, the guy who plays TT, Adela's husband, whose name I can't remember, the character, his best friend, unfortunately killed 2/3 of the way through.
I know, but he's really good too.
I thought that he and Josh Lucas's sister were going to get together, and I was like, sweet, she's going to get together with TT, and then he gets shot in the gut, and you're like, well, that's kind of a bummer. I just, on the whole, I found this like super tense and pretty well paced. I did appreciate the fact that, in the first 20 minutes, the purge is over and you're like, what do you mean the forever purge? It's fucking over. And then you're like, oh, this is the forever purge. So,
by the way, and that cage that Adela gets
creepy
stuck in, holy shit. Yeah, that is awful.
Yeah. So anyway, the way that you are clued into the fact, Evan, that the forever purge has begun is Adela leaves she works at a meat packing plant, and she leaves and she goes into the alley because she's like, where the fuck is everybody? And they're probably all dead. But she's like, she walks into the alley and she sees a goat in a cage. And she's like, well, this is weird. And I'm just, and you know, it's one of those things like the hair, like if you've seen enough horror movies or dystopian thrillers or whatever, you're like, don't go to the cage, Adela. What the fuck? And of course, you know, she tries to open it and it traps her and it flips her over. And then there's like a drill on top that these two fucking psychos in a garbage can like come out of. And they're like toying with her, like they're going to drill through her forehead. And then her boss comes out and like beats the fuck out of one of them. And then she kills another one, and like whatever. But you're just.
Yeah, they tag team nicely.
Yeah. I do wonder what happened to him. He leaves halfway through the movie. He's like, I gotta go save my family. And then you never
see him again.
It's like,
I know. I was like, did he get to his family? I wonder. But they wouldn't know. Family, I wonder.
Yeah, they wouldn't know.
You know?
And this movie is not about like, parallel narratives, obviously. So until the very end, when the two groups split up and one goes into Mexico and one stays behind to fight, like these rando white supremacists who come in like, so this movie's about 100 minutes long, and at about the 78-minute mark, all of a sudden, there's this whole new group of characters who are these weird white supremacists who are like, you, Josh Lucas, can redeem yourself if you kill one of these Mexicans. And so then that starts off a whole thing. But like, and then that starts a parallel narrative. So, you know, you could make the argument, well, why don't we see what happened to Adela's boss? I mean, he was cool, but...
They do the parallel narratives a couple times because they're in the theater, and then you're right. They run into the other white supremacist group, and then you're right, they split up again because of course Dylan's wife goes into labor.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I have to say, my one big problem with this film is how Levin Rambin, who I have liked for many years, and she's, I think, good in this, but she's basically his sister and kind of flirting with Juan's friend, and that's kind of it. And his wife, the only identity she has is she's pregnant. Right. And I'm all for making someone pregnant just kind of randomly, like in Fargo, for instance, but don't make it be their only personality trait, and don't make it be their only character arc, or to try to, you know, I don't know, humanize them or something. I don't know. That kind of irritates me.
It is irritating, especially because Levin Rambin, I've seen her in a million things, and I'm always like, man, she's good. And then she's good in this too. It's like, I wish she had more to do than just flirt with TT, you know? I mean,
and escort the pregnant lady.
Yeah, she does kill a couple of people, but it's like, well, everybody kills somebody in this movie. So it's like,
But Adela is the most adept at it and gets asked about it, which is interesting that Juan doesn't get asked why he's so good with guns, but she gets asked why she's so good at killing people.
Well, it's because she's a woman. I mean, that's why.
Oh, I know.
So, I mean, I know you know, but I just thought I would say the quiet part out loud.
Of course.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, but aside from my little quibbles, I had a blast with this.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, fun's the wrong word, but it's a good thriller. So,
but it actually is fun. Like, I know what you mean. Like, it's really serious, intense, you know, death-defying issues. But it was fun. Like, especially when their truck breaks down in El Paso and they have to go on foot. That is really tense.
Yeah.
It was fun.
I do wonder why the movie theater was having a Rocky Horror-esque presentation of Dracula either the night of the Purge.
I'm here for it.
No. But the timing, I'm saying, either the night of the Purge or the day after the Purge. It's like, so wait. So like everybody's January 6th thing, the entire country, and you guys are going to go ahead with your fucking Dracula performance? That's weird.
Why not?
So
but
anyway.
It is weird.
Yeah.
Moving on from the Forever Purge.
The Forever Conversation. I mean.
But I'm bumped.
Thank you.
Yes. Let's move on to talk about the Tomorrow War, which is
it's a movie.
Action movie. Yeah. It's a sci-fi action movie directed by Chris McKay and written by Zach Dean. And it stars Chris Pratt.
Does anybody else think it's strange that they've now turned him? I mean, the corollary, I guess, would be Bruce Willis. But I mean, Chris Pratt is an action star.
It's kind of weird, especially considering his roots as Andy Dwyer on Parks and Rec.
Yeah. But I mean, it works in Guardians of the Galaxy because it just works.
I beg to differ, but sure.
Okay. Well, maybe it works for some people.
It works marginally in Guardians of the Galaxy. I'll agree to that.
But I mean,
that character feels closer to what is kind of his
Yes.
wheelhouse.
yeah.
Yes,
This character
exactly.
does not. This character does not. He's to give a quick plot summary. This is about a guy who is drafted to fight in a future war. So basically, people come to the past, like present day ish, and tell everyone in the world, "Hey, guess what? There's aliens, and we are losing the war in the future, and so we need people here from present day to come with us to the future to fight the aliens. Otherwise, the human race will go extinct." And so Chris Pratt is one of those people who's selected to join the fight and is shipped off to the future.
And he is an
Where he-
army veteran, by the way, and a scientist.
Yes.
So
And a scientist. Yeah. And
What are
that's
the
what I was kind of
odds?
getting to.
you know.
Yeah. it's kind of not really his wheelhouse. The I'm a science guy.
No, he's
Yeah.
fucking horrible, and this is the worst acting, and it's bad acting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, so anyway, so yeah, he's shipped to the future where guess what? His commanding officer turns out to be his grown up daughter, and so the part of the movie is like him working with his daughter to try and defeat the aliens, and then the movie just continues to go on after
Yeah.
they find the quote unquote toxin or whatever from the alien queen that they can use to kill them, and yeah, the movie just keeps on going. This is a long,
It's a long
one. It's 2
movie.
hours and 20
Unnecessarily
minutes.
long.
I would like to ask how many movies this year, or in any year really, are going to be so derivative of aliens? That's what I want to know. But also,
See, I found this more derivative of Terminator, but still, sure, yes, it is
Yes.
derivative of
that
aliens
is,
too.
but that's a
Mhm.
fair comparison too.
Yeah,
I mean more in the sense of, you got the alien queen and all that shit.
no, that's fair. That is fair.
I mean,
Mhm.
some of this, I think this is, I don't want to call it a near miss because it's mostly a miss, but this is like a decent idea that just kind of comes together in all the wrong ways,
Oh, I think this is horrible. I hated this movie. Like, this movie made me angry.
I didn't hate it that much. I mean, but I was
No, me
watching
neither.
it. But when to your point, Evan, earlier, and I think Megan, you actually talked about how long this is too.
Mhm.
The daughter dies in the future, and then the movie's another 35 minutes long, and it's like,
Mhm.
what? I mean, I know
Because they have to go get the toxin. They have to manufacture the toxin and then bring it to Russia where they first landed. Fuck.
I know,
Yeah,
but it's one of
yeah.
those. What?
It's ridiculous.
No, I wasn't even saying like you didn't know. I'm just like,
Yeah,
it's
no.
so absurd when you start listing it out.
But here's the thing. Here's where I knew this movie was going to be no good. Like I was open minded, and then the volcano kid is there in the first 10
Yes!
minutes, and I'm like,
Thank you.
why is this kid? Why are we making such a point about this kid always talking about volcanoes? Like why? It's like the
Mhm.
only way it could have been more of a this is going to be important later is if like it had been a really famous person playing the kid.
Mhm.
But like
Yes.
if there were lights and like ding 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 like
Yeah.
like a jackpot, like
Yeah.
it was so obvious, and I was like, oh, they're going to be in volcanoes, or volcanoes are going to be the key to killing them.
Right.
Yeah, and then Charlie, played by Sam Richardson, who's lovely.
He is
Um,
lovely.
He is. I love him. He's a geothermal scientist. So I'm like, oh, here we go. More with the volcanoes. And yes, of course,
Yeah.
because of course.
Mhm.
Yeah, this movie has such obvious foreshadowing. It's illogical in its time travel rules and
The
paradoxes.
time travel rules don't work. Like even a little bit.
No, it doesn't make any sense. And here's the thing. In a better film, I'm way more forgiving of that shit. And if you don't want to really lay out the rules, I'm also fine with that. But when you have characters asking, well, wait a minute, why aren't we sending more people in the past? Well, wait a minute, why don't we do this? And your answers are just ridiculously illogical, then I get pissed.
Yeah. I am going to talk about a couple things I did like. Ooh. A couple.
Well, some of the, I will
couple-
say there are great actors in this who are actually good in this, but they belong in a better movie.
Yeah, like when
Yes.
Mary Lynn Racekub showed up as like just like a random person, I was just like, wait a minute, she's awesome? Why is she in this? And then of course she dies heroically, which is great. But I was just glad to see her there because I like her. I've always liked her ever since I first saw her in Mr. Show. And so that was cool. I liked Sam Richardson. He was, even though his part was dumb, he was really fun in it. It's always
yeah, he
nice.
was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, it's always nice to see J.K. Simmons, even if he's kind
Yes.
of coasting on asshole autopilot as he does in this.
but he's still always great.
Yeah.
He is.
And this is also jacked J.K. Simmons, which is kind of his
I
thing.
know.
My
now.
favorite J.K. Simmons.
I made a note about that. I was like, J.K. Simmons is jacked.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been jacked for a very long time. I just don't think people have realized it because he had a lot of clothes on.
Yeah. Well, this is like, and
Yeah.
there was a movie, I don't remember which one it was, but there was a movie specifically where he got super jacked. And then he has
The
stayed.
Snowman movie.
Was that what it was? And then
Yeah,
he
the
has
Fassbender one.
He is,
Well, he's
yeah.
also super jacked for Whiplash too, though.
Yes. He has stayed super jacked. It's kind of like Ryan Reynolds got jacked for, Blade Trinity. And then he's just like, I'll just stay this way.
Yeah.
And J.K. Simmons kind of did the same thing.
Good for him. Betty Gilpin is great and criminally wasted here.
Criminally underused.
Yes,
I don't even.
as Chris Pratt's wife
Right.
in the film. She's barely on screen. She's there in the beginning when he comes home to the Christmas party, and he's a little bit when he's like getting drafted, and she doesn't want him to go, and then just a little bit at the end.
Well, actually, there is, and I'm going to bring this up only because it's such a wasted opportunity. But there's a great scene where she's running a PTSD survivor veterans group for people who survived the future war because the tours are only 7 days long. And I was like,
That's extremely lethal.
right. And I was like, oh, okay, this could go somewhere. And it goes nowhere. So
Right.
again, she's wasted storyline, ridiculous. And I also really like Yvonne Strahovski. I like her
Yeah.
tremendously in The Handmaid's Tale. She's so chilling in that. And she's fine here, but again, wasted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that to me, we're talking about some of the acting being bad, and I think some of the I liked a lot of the action because it was just so like over the top, and to me at points bordering on a chaotic that was just too much. But when the film hits the brakes to like dwell in its emotional moments, I
Mhm.
think that's where it really does not work as a movie. Like
Oh,
they
yeah.
have that like really epic action scene where they're like, pulling the queen out of the hole and they just barely get away. And then it's like, now we have to see them on the beach talking about how, he walked out on her when she was a kid, and this like
I know. And it's
long,
like,
boring, emotional scene
Yeah.
that you're just like, I don't care. Move on.
exactly.
Let's move on.
And it's a time travel movie. So we already know that he's going to go back and not do the things that he did.
But that's the thing. The writing is so fucking bad and so terrible. And the dialogue is so atrocious. And
Mhm.
there's no character development. Like it's it's so bad that I didn't care. I didn't like the action scenes. I didn't think they were that good. I found that they were very like kind of like whatever. And I think a big part of that is because I didn't give a shit about the characters. Whereas if I'd cared about the characters, it would have been way more tense. There would have been way higher stakes, and I would have actually found the action scenes more compelling.
Yeah. The one set of action scenes that really worked for me was when they first arrive in Miami and they infiltrate that science building.
Mhm.
And then they escape from the science building, basically up until
The stairwell
Marilyn
scene?
Yes. Basically up until Marilyn Raceskip dies on the highway with that other guy whose name I can't remember.
But see, that's the thing. That scene, I agree with you guys that it should have been really intense because when you lay it out, it's got all the elements there. And again, I was bored. I was like, yeah, whatever. This is not good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think
it should have been great, but I just didn't feel anything.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it speaks to the movie's overall just kind of shittiness. It's just, well, it's really just
it's mostly bad writing.
yeah.
Mhm.
And some bad acting.
So bad.
But mostly
And a
bad,
lot
but
of
mostly
bad acting.
Yeah,
Mostly from
mostly
Chris
bad writing.
Pratt.
Yeah, he's not good.
God, he's
Yeah.
terrible. Terrible. And that's the thing. If you're going to hitch your wagon to one person, and he really is the one character, even though this is an ensemble cast, it's really not. It's really him.
Right.
You better pick a better character, make a better character, and pick a much better actor who can actually navigate the action scenes and the dramatic heft.
Yeah, and this is one of those things that I think this movie is almost a throwback to, like, I don't want to say old school action movies, but it's kind of like, think about Predator, where you have Arnold Schwarzenegger is the star, and then everybody else is like, all those guys in it from 80s action movies, and maybe that's why they have so much heft. But at the same time, it's Schwarzenegger's the star. But action movies aren't like that anymore. Action movies are like Marvel movies now, where there's like 14 lead characters, And so you don't have to rely on one person. Even in Guardians of the Galaxy, it's not Chris Pratt, and it's also Chris Pratt and Zoe Saldana and Dave Bautista and, you know, whoever the fuck else does the voice for the
Bradley
Bradley Cooper. And it's like, you don't have to just have it coast isn't have Chris Pratt carry it. Whereas this is like, he's in the Tom Cruise role, you know,
Yes.
and like only Tom Cruise can be Tom Cruise, you know?
Yeah, he's
And
not
when
Tom Cruise.
when I say that, I mean, only Tom Cruise, despite being 5'7", only Tom Cruise can carry an action movie on his own anymore, I think. So, and even then he has a hard time still. That movie, not Live, Die, Repeat, but the other one, the other sci-fi movie that he made with Andrea Riseborough, that was no good. Anyway.
Oh yeah, that was not good.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to remember the name of that one where there was the one with the clones.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
but it was a bad movie. So this movie kind of makes that mistake of thinking like, oh, Chris Pratt, he's been like an action hero. Nope, not in this
Nope.
movie. So
Nope. I also have to
Mhm.
say that the part of the reason that I really had such disdain for this film, in addition to all of the mechanics just not working and being very poor, is that for me, this felt just such propaganda for the military industrial complex, and in a very kind of, we're patriotic, rah rah kind of way. And it just didn't work. And it could have been really interesting, like I said, in its exploration of PTSD, or in, you know, exploring veterans, because they have a character whose name is now Dorian, who is,
Mhm.
thank you, who's the vet, and he has cancer. So he keeps going back to the future, back to the future. And, you know, and that could have been something really fascinating and compelling to explore. And again, another wasted opportunity. So
Yeah. I agree. I thought the movie was angling towards something that it never got to, which was extremely disappointing. I kept feeling like over the course of the movie that the people in charge were like not telling us something that we were supposed to know. And I kept thinking that like maybe they're not actually aliens. Maybe they're like mutated people that are
Yes.
the result of some kind of wackadoo experiment that happened. And I think that would have made for a much more interesting movie, because then it would have been more like the Starship Troopers angle, where it's like we're the
Mhm.
villains, not the bugs. You know, it's
right.
like
yeah,
that would have been a really interesting way to take the movie. And I kept hoping that's where it was going, but instead it just was this nonsensical time travel movie with bad acting and really bad dialogue, especially like the audience surrogate lines were just so
Oh my God.
bad. They were just so bad.
yeah.
You are heroes, regardless of your background. You answered the call. We need scientists. Okay, great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I knew my future was always right here, right in front of me. My best future. Oh my God. The lines are just
Yeah.
so terrible. So
They're
shitty.
terrible. They're so bad.
By the way, Evan, I agree with you. And I kind of thought it was going to be some kind of bait and switch like that too. And I kept waiting for it because I was like, why are we hiding the aliens? Like, why are we not seeing them at all? I will say, to the film's credit, I did kind of find the creature design of the aliens kind of interesting. But yeah, that's about it.
Well, also
Mhm.
though, but yes, the creature design was interesting, but what wasn't interesting was how they call them the white spikes, because they shoot these white spikes out of their. How many prongs did they have? 3, or do they just have 1?
3 or 4.
I'm not sure, but they also can like bite you and eat you. Okay,
Yes.
so the aliens seem to have some kind of intelligence. We don't know, or some kind of, you know, hive mind, some kind of whatever. They operate. They're not dumb. Let me put it that way. But they're really selective in the way they use their spikes. Like sometimes they'll walk right up to you and chomp you, and sometimes they're like, "Let me shoot you from a distance and then chomp you." It's like, what? Come on, can we have some fucking say so in the creature design here? Like, let's have that, you know, and that doesn't even work. I did appreciate that they were apparently some kind of bioweapon that had gone awry.
Great point.
But that was the one thing that I thought was, because when they get there and you see that the pilot alien when they finally find the alien ship in Russia at the end of the movie, and you're like, oh, that's a different alien.
Mhm.
And then you realize, oh, this is it's a colony of these creatures wherever they're going.
And again, it kind of harkens back to what you were saying about aliens, not so much Alien or Aliens, but kind of the Prometheus angle where
right.
you're seeing the space jockey. So yeah.
Yeah.
And you're kind of finding out. But yeah, I agree. I thought that was really interesting that they they were being transported as cargo for bioweapon purpose.
Yeah.
But again, doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. It's like all of the side stuff that is just sort of like the throwaway explanation stuff is cool. And then they go back to the bullshit action. It's like, fuck this shit, so, whatever.
Mhm.
Fuck the Tomorrow War.
Thank you. That was that's pretty much my point.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Tomorrow War. And I just want to say, I love a time travel movie and I love sci-fi. So that made me also even more angry because I was excited.
Yeah. You'll appreciate this, Megan. I don't remember the name of the movie, but there is one movie that I hated so much when I was writing for the Salt Lake City Weekly. The last sentence I wrote, TLDR, fuck this movie. and they printed it. So
yes.
Yeah. So
high fives. That's amazing.
Kind of how I feel about the Tomorrow War.
I did not write that in my review. I did write it's a waste of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, time travel, not really
Har, har.
very, very clever, har, but
Hey, it still works, so.
Yeah, it works.
So, sounds like we're all talked out on the Tomorrow War.
Yeah.
God. Jesus Christ, that movie. Anyway.
Let's move on to more interesting movies to talk about.
Yes!
Let's move on to talk about Black Widow.
Yes.
The much anticipated Black Widow.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel bad for, I don't really feel bad for Scarlett Johansson, but finally we get a woman leading a Marvel movie and it's like, sorry, COVID. Like, all right. Well, now
I feel bad for Scarlett Johansson that she's had to fucking wait for so long to lead when she has clearly proven time and time again that she is a box office draw and that she can headline a film and she's a great action star and she's a great actor, period. So I agree. I feel bad for her too. Anyway, it's the reasons behind why it took so long are bullshit and are ridiculous, but thankfully we're here now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A great role for Florence Pugh. I wanted to get the Chloe, Feynman voice in there. Sorry. Good role for her too.
And Rachel Weisz.
Mm-hmm.
But yes.
Yes, Rachel Weisz.
Can never forget Rachel Weisz because she's a queen.
And I like the fact that David Harbour was in this, but his character is kind of irritating. So, but
yeah.
But anyway, we should probably do a summary first.
Sorry.
Before we dive in.
So it's directed by Kate Shortland. It's written by Jack Schaefer and Ned Benson.
By the way,
Eric
Jack
Pearson.
Schaefer, I just want to jump in and say Jack Schaefer created WandaVision and is awesome.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah, I did like WandaVision. I finally caught up with that. I'm on the slow catch up to Disney Plus shows that everyone else has been talking about.
Nice. But yeah.
That's neither here nor there. That's
hey, there's nothing wrong with that context.
But yeah, so this film is starring Scarlett Johansson. She's playing Black Widow, and the story takes place between Civil War, Captain America Civil War, and the Infinity War movie. So it's kind of like a between adventure.
A side quel.
Yes. It's like part origin story, part side quest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like. I like that a lot, actually.
Yeah, I do too. I was bummed that her character died.
Well, yes.
Right.
Super bummed about that. But I don't know. I was excited to see this. And
me too.
I don't know if I agree with both of you in terms of I think for me, this was a really mixed bag.
Oh,
there was a lot of things that I really liked, a lot of things I didn't like. But I think the things that I didn't like were mainly around the acting and performances.
Oh, interesting.
I liked Scarlett Johansson and I really liked Florence Pugh. I thought Florence Pugh was amazing in this, in that I felt like she was one of the only people who was actually playing a character, actually playing a coherent character that had nuance to it and wasn't just someone attempting and failing to do an accent.
Right.
And I normally love Rachel Weisz, but I did not like her in this. I felt like she was phoning it in, and David Harbour, I normally like him, but I feel like
he was
a
just
combination
wrong.
of their characters being weak and their performances. I'm like, my God, people, these accents are all over the place and not good. And
well, that's why they should just drop accents. We don't need them.
Right.
Natasha doesn't have an accent. So
No.
we can, and that's the thing. There are workarounds. If somebody cannot do an accent well, and it's hard to, and sometimes you don't have enough time, when you're an actor, you don't have enough time in preparation before you start filming that you can't really nail it down. Sometimes it's a combination of things, could be issues, whatever. But if you cannot nail it consistently, just get it out.
Yeah.
You can explain why someone doesn't have a Russian accent. You really can.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
or you could just have Ray Winstone play the villain and basically just not even bother with an accent,
right?
Other than his Australian accent.
Yeah, there you go. But I don't agree with about the acting though. I mean, I know what you mean. And I will kind of agree, Evan, somewhat that I think Rachel Weisz is so amazing in everything. And I will say in this, she's not maybe as quite as amazing for me, but I don't think she's bad. And David Harbour, he's fine. But I agree. I think Florence Pugh is really, really great in this. I still think though that Scarlett Johansson, this is her film. This is her world. And I think for me, she's the best in this. But I actually liked the other performances as well.
Yeah, she's fine. I mean, I always like Scarlett Johansson.
Me too.
I thought Florence Pugh was great. David Harbour really took me, and I like him. He plays such a great asshole. And in this movie, he's kind of like a fake asshole. But aside from like the opening, in their childhood thing where he's just kind of a normal guy, when he shows up as like the Red Menace or whatever the fuck he's called. I don't know what he's called. The Red Guardian, the Russian version of Captain America. And it's like kind of this gag. And now he's old and he's been in prison and it's just so dumb. And I think I think he just hits the wrong beats and it's just a series of poor choices. And also, by the way, if he can like just break that dude's arm with no problem, who's at least twice his size, then why can't he just bust through any of these fucking doors and escape the prison?
Good question.
Why do his fucking like estranged fake daughters need to like send him a doll with an earpiece in it,
I mean, I guess you could kind of say the isolated location could be the reason why.
Maybe.
And it kind of looked like the only way to get in there was by air. So even if he had gotten out, there might have been nowhere for him to go.
But if he's like Captain America, he could probably survive the elements, you know?
Yeah, no, I hear you. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's not as good as Captain America. Maybe he's a lesser, mutant, if you will.
Super serum wasn't as good.
Yeah, I know. I'm calling him a mutant like he's an X-Men. But yes, the serum.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have to say though so I did not find this a mixed bag like you guys, even though I do think David Harbour for me was probably the weakest element. I loved this. I thought this was great. I thought the action scenes were great. But what I loved most of all is that even though there are great action scenes, even though there are really great like kind of chase, like helicopter, big set pieces, for me, the film focuses so much more on characters and conversations than most other superhero films. And I really appreciated that. I loved the conversation. In addition to loving the rapport between Natasha and Yelena, who is Florence Pugh, her kind of, quote unquote fake sister. I loved their rapport and I loved how their conversations reveal pain and trauma. And I love the conversation where Yelena's asking where she's talking about I reinvented my birth certificate and you moved out west and you're married to a guy who renovates houses and you're a teacher. And she's like, that's not my story. And she's like, well, what is? And she's like, I don't know. I don't spend a lot of time alone thinking about it. I keep myself busy. And then she's like, did you ever think about having kids? And she looks away and she won't look at her and she won't answer. And they address it more head on overtly later. But if you've watched any of the other films with her, that she's been forced in sterilization, which violates her bodily autonomy and her reproductive rights. And I love that they're getting into that. And I love that they get into it more overtly. And I love that they show the other widows and how they're all in training and uniformity, which, and the mind control, and it's from a man and it's parallel to patriarchy. And I love these kind of big conversations that are happening on kind of a small, intimate scale and a larger scale. So, and one of the other things I really loved was I loved Yelena's commentary on Natasha's fighting pose. She's like, "What is this? Where you whip your hair and you put your hand out?" Because
that was very funny.
It is, and that fighting pose, which started in Iron Man 2, is kind of ridiculous. And Scarlett Johansson has talked about how in Iron Man 2 she felt so sexualized, and this is very different, and she doesn't feel that way. And I kind of love that it's kind of making a meta commentary on that.
I also like it when Florence Pugh does it at the end of the movie, and then she's like, "Ugh, gross," or whatever she says.
She's such a poser.
Yeah. I'm not going to say that Ray Winstone ruined this for me. He's barely in it, thank God. But like, I don't remember where his name pops up or how I knew he was in it. And I was so bummed out. It's just like, don't make me watch this fucking guy. Just have him like, does he get carried off by the ants in the the fourth Indiana Jones? I don't remember.
I think so.
It's like, why can't that happen to him? But
he blows up. Not blows up, but he is engulfed in a fiery inferno.
Well, yeah, but she thought she killed him in a fiery inferno the first time. I mean, who knows if he's like...
Well, we saw him. We saw his glasses fly off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
That's how you know he's dead.
That's confirmation. His glasses flew off.
Flying glasses mean he's dead.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought, this is highly watchable. One of the things about action movies like this, and the Tomorrow War gets into this too, although in a much worse way. A lot of times, especially toward the end, here in Black Widow, when they're in the sky and whatever the sky machine is called that they're fucking flying in, I don't know.
Oh my God, it's crashing forever. And there's just,
I loved that.
There's debris and whatever. And it's like, how is anybody not getting pulverized by this debris? I mean, it's so frenetic.
I know. Right. I love it.
No human reaction is that fast,
I loved it.
Like, it's just basically a small series or a large series of miracles that any of these people survives this shit.
Mm-hmm.
But it is what it is. It's a Marvel action movie, so it's not really a valid complaint, probably. But at the same time, it's like, just tone it down. Just dial it back 10%. 10% less flying. Weird, not quite spaceship thing in your face.
No, I loved that it was over the top and ridiculous because for me, the rest of the film is not. It's way more grounded than the other Marvel films. So for me, I was like, no, go over the top, go big. I was here for it.
Yeah. Well, I did like the action quite a bit. And I feel like the movie comes out swinging in terms of the action scenes. Like the first bit, the whole thing where they're like escaping the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents and they're on the plane that's taking off. And Rachel Weisz is trying to fly and then she gets shot. And
then young Natasha has to jump in the front seat.
While David Harbour's like on the wing shooting at people. Like,
yeah.
That was so tense.
Awesome.
It was awesome. And it was so tense and harrowing. And it caught me off guard. It really surprised me and how emotional I was. I was crying because it was so like intense. I loved that opening. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good opening.
Good opening. And it was pretty stacked in terms of the action scenes from like there on. Like it was going at a really good clip. And then when we started getting to some of the more emotional parts in the film, like some of the character conversations, it slowed down a lot for me, which is not a bad thing. I mean, you got to take a break at some point from like nonstop action, but I just wish that I liked the performances more from David Harbour and Rachel Weisz. So I feel like that part to me just like really wasn't working. So because it really wasn't working, I was like, oh man, can we please get back to something more interesting?
I have to say about Rachel Weisz though, and it's a missed opportunity, not in this film per se, but somebody tweeted that she should star in a franchise of Evie from The Mummy, and I'm totally here for that.
I mean,
for sure.
Just have her star in everything. I mean,
in everything, right? But that's what I mean. But she's so good, and I don't think people realize how good she is in action. So I kind of wish we'd seen her in more action scenes in this film too.
And I would just say, as somebody who only saw Constantine for the first time a couple years ago, I wish that movie had been more successful so she could have been in more Constantine movies. That would have been awesome.
She's just great. She's one of my absolute favorite actresses.
Yeah.
She's so good. I want to say something, just pivoting for a moment, about Scarlett Johansson. And maybe because I'm in a Scarlett Johansson kind of mode, because I just did that really amazingly epic episode with Binge Movies about her career. I think, like I said, I think she's a great actress, just period. But what I find so fascinating about her filmography is how many of her films explore issues of bodily autonomy and how she herself uses her body and her physicality as an actor. And I just think it's really, really interesting that it's exploring those same themes here too.
I think that's interesting too.
Ooh, well, thank you.
Yeah. No, I think that she's one of the, I mean, everyone loves her and thinks she's great, whatever. But I think that she doesn't get enough credit for just how good she, because you know why?
I agree. Thank you.
It's because she kind of makes it look effortless. So she's one of those, she's kind of, I mean, I can't believe I'm going to say this about Brad Pitt, but when Brad Pitt's good, he's so good. You kind of are like, oh, that's right. You're an actor. But she does it in every movie. She's like, it's effortless for her.
But what's great about her is that she can do it in the big moments, like big action scenes, but she also can do it in the very, very small, quiet moments, like that scene that I absolutely love where she's thinking about kids and how she can't have them. And it's such a quiet moment, and just watching her face and the choices she makes with her body and her body language and facial expressions is just fantastic.
Right.
So I completely agree with you. And I feel that way about Rachel Weisz too, just that her acting is so good. But anyway, but back to Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah. And when I say,
I love them both.
Yeah. When I say effortless, I don't mean that she's not putting in effort, by the way. I just
no.
No, I know that I know you
natural.
know that.
It seems very natural.
Yeah. She just embodies, and she's also, I feel like she's kind of a character actor and a leading woman's, you know, like it's kind of like Brad Pitt's I talk about Brad Pitt.
How is she a character actor? I'm so confused.
Because she's so versatile. She doesn't just like,
oh, I see what you mean. Yes.
Yeah.
Got it. Because I think of character actors as often being pigeonholed in one kind of role.
No, I mean,
but yes, but no, I know what you mean.
She's really capable and has played so many different kinds of parts, but because she looks like a movie star, you know, I think she tends to be not dismissed, but taken maybe less seriously than she would be if she were doing more Meryl Streep kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So
sure. Although she chooses really interesting projects, but you're very right. I agree with you that she's appreciated for her acting talents. Yeah,
like I not that I don't want to see her in more Avenger movies, because hey, great, why not? But more under the skin kind of stuff would be cool.
Yes.
Like more standalone action movies. I don't love Lucy, but I liked her in it.
Yeah, she's great in Lucy.
So, you know, so just stuff like that. That's all I mean.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. The other thing I want to say about the film is that one of the themes that I love is that, and we see it right from the opening credits, is about how girls are kidnapped and coerced into becoming killers, and they're taken from their families, and it's just so creepy and gross. And you know, Ray Winstone's character, Drykoff, whatever his name is, I can't remember now, and how he's talking about how he uses girls because they're the greatest abundance of resources, like they're the most like prolific resource or something, like there's too many of them, and it's just like, ew, you're gross. But anyway, it's interesting that that the film is, well, it's dealing with many themes and dealing with many things like found family and dealing with your past. It's also dealing with this pervasive misogyny.
Yeah. I zeroed in on that comment as well, and it's twisted that he's able to take advantage of that situation, but there are so many just people in the world that are discarded. Like they're lost, and people don't know where they are or care. And so, there's this abundant resource of people that have no place and nowhere to go. And so they're easily, kidnapped and coerced and brainwashed. And I thought that was a really compelling theme. And I liked the idea of, like making your own family. And I really felt like that dynamic was super strong between Florence Pugh and Scarlett Johansson's characters. I just wish I felt like it gelled more with David Harbour and Rachel Weisz, because I liked the concept. But when they were having the family dinner scene and she was like getting the mom nagging, like, oh, sit up straight, hey, chew your food or whatever it was. It's like, that's, to me, it's just not working.
That felt a little forced.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because in the beginning it felt so effortless and easy, and it doesn't feel that way. And I don't know if maybe they were trying to make it seem awkward because this isn't where Natasha's at and she doesn't, whereas Yelena very much, talks about how it was real for her, even though everything was fake. Natasha's like, it wasn't real. You weren't really my parents. You're not really my sister. Even though I love at the end that she calls her sestra. And I know that is the word for sister in Russian, but it just makes me think of Orphan Black and makes me so delighted and happy to think about sestras.
You want to talk about someone else who's criminally underappreciated as an actor, Tatiana Maslany.
Well, yes. I mean, I feel like Orphan Black fans know how amazing she is. And she finally got some recognition from the Emmys at the end. But yes, criminally underrated and underused. You are right, Evan. I completely agree with you because she's amazing.
I just want to talk real quick about the one thing in this that really bothered me.
Uh-oh, what's that? Besides Ray Winstone?
Besides Ray Winstone. When they steal the guy who runs the garage or whatever, or the gas station, when they just steal his car. It's like, oh, the guy is probably like running a gas station, whatever, and he's broke and they just stole his car. Oh, man. Or maybe it was a car he was working it on, so maybe it's not a big deal because it's some other asshole's car, whatever. But it's just like, they fucking stole that guy's car. That's not cool.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
that
was a bummer.
Yeah. Well, it's just kind of funny how you notice those little moments. You're like, hey, I know that there are movie heroes, but they stole some random dude's car. It's like, hey, wait, that guy's fucking got people to feed, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. I know it was like the end goal of them freeing the rest of the widows at the end and like them kind of all going off together to form their own like family, army, some combination of. I would have liked to see more of that in the movie, more of like the rescuing of them and like teaming up with them. But I know that could easily make a really good sequel or spin-off show on Disney Plus about like the widows. Like,
I hope so. I hope that happens because I was thinking that too. I was like, oh man, I really want to follow Yelena as she's going around the globe, freeing the other widows. And you're right. It would be really interesting to see.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they will.
I mean, and then who knows based on that post-credit scene at the end.
I know.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
It looks like Florence Pugh is going to have a thing, right?
Yes.
With Julia Louis-Dreyfus as her handler.
Yes. I mean, Florence Pugh, I haven't talked about her. I've focused so much on Scarlett Johansson and Rachel Weisz because they're so great and I'm obsessed with Rachel Weisz. But Florence Pugh, I love. I mean, she's so good in Midsommar, so good in Little Women. And yeah, she's just great. So
yeah, she is great.
I would, definitely be excited to see her do her own thing within the Marvel universe.
Yeah. And I just appreciate that there's a person out there who's got the most English name ever. And she's a movie star.
I knew you were going to mention that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, first of all, her first name's Florence, which, okay, maybe it's an Italian name, whatever. But I mean, Florence Pugh, I mean, it's so wonderfully, it's wonderful. I'll just leave it there. There you go. I love the
she's
fact,
wonderful, so it's
I
perfect.
love the fact that there's like a 24-year-old woman whose name is Florence Pugh. So.
You're silly.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like how like for all like my kid's name is Henry. That's like an old man's name, but
that is an old man name.
But he's 6 years old. So she has an old woman's name, but she's like in her mid-20s. It's awesome. I love it. I'm on board.
Yeah.
Well, I was on board with Black Widow. I loved it. I had a blast and I really enjoyed it. And I was very pleasantly surprised at its emotional resonance and how it really moved me.
Okay.
Nice. I'm glad you loved it.
Yeah,
Megan.
me too.
I liked it. Didn't love it as we've discussed, but it's still fun.
Yeah.
Still a lot of fun.
I liked it more than I didn't. So there's that.
There you go.
Cool. All right. So I think that brings us to the end of another episode of Spoiler Piece Theater. Let's do a quick recap here. We got the Forever Purge, which will be opening in theaters. Megan and Dave, see it or don't see it?
See it. See it for sure.
I fully intend to. I love the Purge movies. The Tomorrow War, which will be on Amazon Prime. See it or don't see it?
Hard pass.
Skip it.
Hard,
Do not see it.
Hard pass.
Hard. I agree. Hard pass.
In fact,
hard pass on this one.
Find the initial, like the original hard drive on which it's stored and just burn it. So, because I know we don't shoot on film much anymore.
And then it sounds like we'd all say see Black Widow, even if if it was a mixed bag for a couple of us.
Oh my
Correct me
God,
if I'm wrong.
yes. Go see it or
Yeah.
watch it at home.
Especially if you're
Yes.
like a Marvel completist, like I am, just because like I've seen so many of them. I'm like, I gotta fucking see all of them now. So
Or
yeah,
if you love women superheroes, because we need more of that.
Yes,
And more
that
of
would
them.
absolutely
that's
be.
true. But I'm thinking more in terms of just the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's so large and there's so many of them, and I've seen them all, and it's just insane.
It is.
I kind of dig it.
Yeah,
That it's so unwieldy. I gotta do.
yeah, super unwieldy. So that's going to be in theaters, and it's going to be available on Disney Plus Premium to rent. So you can see both places.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to say a huge thank you to our editor, Otto Clamor. Otto, thank you so much for making it sound great every week.
Thanks, Otto.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Otto.
You can find us anywhere you can get podcasts, but you can also find us over at our website, which is spoilerpiece.com. You can find us on social media. We're Spoiler Piece Theater on Facebook, and we're at Spoiler Piece on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, TikTok, all that jazz.
All that
If you want to
jazz?
get in touch with us, yeah, jazz hands. If you want to get in touch with us, and there's a couple ways you can do that. First of all, you can email us. We're spoilerpiece@gmail.com. Tell us we're right. Tell us we're wrong. Just say hi. We always like to hear from you. Or you can give us a call.
At 862-21-PEACE.
You can leave us a voicemail. I think you can also text us at that number. I don't know who wants to do that, but that's, I guess, an option.
Yeah, true.
And so if you like the show, please rate and review us by going to ratethispodcast.com/spoilerpiece. We would immensely appreciate it. It helps more people find the show. And if you really, really like the show, please join our Patreon. You can head over to patreon.com/spoilerpiece, and you can sign up to get exclusive audio each week. This week we talked about Jennifer's Body, and that was a lot of fun.
Mhm.
There's also polls that you can vote in. There's a tier where you can pick movies for us to watch, or you can get a shout out on the show, which we're going to do right now. We're just going to say thank you to all of our patrons.
Yes, we want to give a huge thank you to Bob Chipman, Charles Nash, Chris Wilkinson, Davida Margolin, Deirdre Crimmins, Christopher Jensen, Max Coville, Mike, Lord of the Sith, Rory Glynn, Sean Pensionar, Shauna Harris, Shelley McCaskill, Shona Glasgow, William Scahan, and Zach Pigeon. Thank you so much, patrons.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, listeners, for tuning into this week's episode. My name is Evan Crean. I'm co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s movie guide, Better Living. You can follow me on Twitter and on Letterboxd as Real Recon, and that's real as in film reel.
My name is Megan Kearns. I'm a contributor to Edge Media Network. I am also a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association. You can follow me on Twitter at OpinionSWorld and on Instagram and Letterboxd at The Opinion S.
And I'm Dave Riedel. I write about movies for some places. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association. And you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd as Dave Sees Movies.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.